चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधा मुरलीधर राध जय राधा रमण राध जय राधा गंधर्व कृष्ण राधा गंधर्व कृष्ण राध जय राधा माधव राध जय राधा गोविंद राध जय राधा विनोद राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बल जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन जय गौरनिता जय गौरनिता जय गौरनि जय पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्व जय षड्गोस्वामी गण जय षड्गोस्वामी गण जय षड्गोस्वामी जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव जय पात्रम स्तोत्र सदा समशिष जन के सफल चरण भक्ति दम श्रील प्रपाद महाराज की जय इसकॉन सम सबका जय श्रील प्रपाद महाराज की जय कृष्ण को प्रणाम श्रील प्रपाद महाराज की जय जय पात्रम सुप्रतिकाचार्य स्तोत्र सदा समशिष जन भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय अनंत कोटि आचार्य वृंद की जय नमाचार्य श्रील हरदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम को जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय माय पूर्ण विद्वान जगन्नाथपुरी द्वारका धाम की जय गंगे में यमुना माई की जय तुलसी भक्ति देव की जय समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम हरिनाम संकीर्तन श्रील प्रपाठ बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assemble units all glories to assemble units all glories to all glories Shri Guru Shri Gaurang Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bol Hare Krishna. So welcome to all devotees for today's Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavatam Pravachan, and we are reading from third canto 31st chapter 11 to 14. We'll start with the prayers. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakya Chakshurmritamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Uta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagara Raguna Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakantamsha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपकांता राधाकांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी प्रभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुष कृपा सिंधुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादिका और भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेव्यं भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नष्टकी। तो श्लोक नंबर 11। नाथमाना ऋषिर्भीतः सप्तवाद्रिः कृताञ्जलिः स्तुवीता तं विकल्वया वाचा येनोदरे अर्पितः। नाथमाना ऋषिर्भीतः सप्तवाद्रिः कृताञ्जलिः स्तुवीता तं विकल्वया वाचा येनोदरे अर्पितः। नाथमाना ऋषिर्भीतः सप्तवाद्रिः कृताञ्जलिः स्तुवीता तं विक्लवाय वाचयेनोदरे अर्पिताः। वर्ड बाय वर्ड मीनिंग ट्रांसलेशन purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Natamanaha appealing, Rishihi the living entity, Bhitaha frightened, Sapta Vadrihi bound by the 7 layers, Kritanjalihi with folded hands, Stuvita praise, Tam to the Lord, Viklavaya faltering, Vacha with words, Yena by whom, Udare in the womb, Arpitaha he was placed. Translation: the living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of metal ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. So, the devotee can read the purport.
Yeah, Anusuya Mataji. Soma Mataji, are you there?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, you can
Loka
follow.
number Mataji. Hare Krishna, I'm very sorry.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranam. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that when a woman is having labor pains, she promises that she will never again become pregnant and suffer from such a severely painful condition. Similarly, when one is undergoing some surgical operation, he promises that he will never again act in such a way as to become diseased and have to undergo medical surgery, or when falls into danger, he promises that he will never again make the same mistake. Similarly, the living entity, when put into a hellish condition of life, prays to the Lord that he will never again commit sinful activities and have to be put into the womb for repeated birth and death. In the hellish condition within the living entity is very much afraid of being born again. But when it is out of the womb, when he is in full life and good health, he forgets everything and commits again and again the same sins for which he was put into the horrible condition of existence. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so now we are in this chapter, which is actually talking about the journey of the spiritual soul, how it as it enters into the body, and how it completes the journey, the movement of the living entity. So Kapil Dev, in the starting from the 25th chapter till 29th, or rather 29th, he gives us the instructions on how to perform devotional service, the practical aspects of it, and what is the fundamental reasoning for rendering our seva, and what is the benefit. So the basically the sambandha gyan, the prayojana, the abhideya, and the prayojana, all these 3 are covered. And in the 31st now, and in the 30th, he actually gives the negatives of it. If you don't do, what are the consequences? How you will suffer in this material world. So those warnings or those kinds of instructions are also given. And now it is coming almost to the end. Just before ending that, he is also now giving us the what is the state of mind of this living entity when it actually moves from one body to another. So what actually happens, and how the mood and the situation that the soul takes as it enters and it exits the body, the entire movement is covered in this, and then how the condition of the soul is. So this is a very famous shloka in the first shloka itself. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantur Deho Papattaye Striya Pravishta Udram Pumsoreta Kanashrayaha. So in this, it is very clearly mentioned that how the soul enters into the womb of a mother. And the Lord himself is giving this a very wonderful explanation, and probably we cannot find more scientific version of how the conception takes place, how the soul comes into, how a new body comes into, takes birth. So there is no probably better explanation, scientific explanation than this. In fact, Prabhupada writes in that purport that even scientists are unable to explain how this life comes, how this new birth takes place, how the baby is born. So the scientists are of the opinion that the egg, the sperms mix with the egg, and then another new life is born. So just like a mixing of some chemicals like that, but they fail to understand that there is a life-giving force which is behind all this all this birth which is taking place. Then the new body has to come, and if it has to live, so that is a life-giving force. The prana is very much required. The prana vayu, or the prana air, that is required, and that is actually the body can sustain only if that prana vayu is there, the air is there, and which is actually the soul's existence. If the soul is not entered into that atom, or into that sperm, or into the basically into the sperm, male sperm, then it cannot produce. So scientists or the medical professional people are thinking just that by mixing of these two elements, life is formed. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So here, the shloka is telling very clearly that Jantur Upapattaya, how the Jantur means the living entity comes into being, how the Sriya Pravishta Udaram. So it is entered the Sriya, the woman, it is entered the Udaram, or the womb. Pumso Reta Kanashraya. So from the man, Pumsa Reta Kanashraya is actually the semen, the sperms, which are, and the Kana Ashraya. Kana is actually a particle, the atom. And then most important here is the Ashraya. So the soul actually takes shelter of this sperm, and then it enters at the time of conception. And what is the driving force behind it? Is the karmana daivanetrena. Why it has to enter into a particular womb? Why it has to take at that point of time? Why not at at another point of time? Why it has to the time, place, circumstances, everything is determined by the karmana daivanetrena, which is the first line. The karma of the entity and of that soul actually, and what is done past, what he has accomplished, or what he has not accomplished, everything is determined in that karma, the result of his work. And then daiva netrena, under the supervision of the Lord, under the extreme direction of the Lord, and the supreme will of the Lord. So if these two are not there, then it'll go into a wrong place. I mean, whatever has to happen with based on his karma, person's karma, and the Daivanetra. And that's why we always say that if Yashoda had to tie Krishna's udara in the Damodar Leela, so the rope was falling short by 2 fingers, right? And how much ever she tried to tie Krishna, it was not tying. It was by magical act of the Lord, it was becoming short. So what is that 2 finger short? Is actually it can be that can be bridged if the effort of the person is there, and the mercy of the Lord. If these two are there, then it can be tied. Otherwise, you cannot tie. The loving bonding relationship should be established between the soul and the super soul. Only then it can be tied. So similarly here, karmana and then the daiva. The daiva is very, very important. And the scientist or whoever it is, the non-atheistic people or the people common in general, they cannot understand this. They probably think, okay, karma is there. Karma, they can probably understand law of karma and all that. But the daivanetrena is completely, lacking. That is why that spiritual knowledge is not there. And then they keep making mistakes after mistakes, and they keep the Lord at a distance, and then they suffer. So this is very wonderfully described in these further shlokas. Probably you will all have read in the last 2-3 days time, how these two things mix, and then how over a period of time, the first week, second week, the fourth week, or the 9th week, or the 15th week, how each one of these how it takes a shape, how the egg gets the shape, and then how the body grows, how the organs grow. So like this, everything, the sense organs are established, and when it is almost at the stage of 7th month, it actually gets the consciousness. Till such time, it is just like an insect, or it's probably in a coma situation, and it is in deep distress. While the body is in the womb, it is such a compact place, and it is neither able to move nor able to take some good food. Even the food or that what is there also, it has to really struggle to get the food. At the same time, it is surrounded by the worms biting, and then it is surrounded by the stool and urine. Everything it's such a horrible situation which is in the womb. So that is the status of the and because of that situation, of that status, the soul is begging to the Lord that, oh my God, once I get this birth, once I come out of this, I will become always your I will surrender to you, oh Lord. And it is actually realizing, because life after life, this soul is experiencing the same situation, and it is always praying that once I come out of it, you please get rid of this horrible, sorrowful condition. I'll become your devotee. I'll serve you. So all these things, it is actually promising, or it is contemplating. But unfortunately, that never realizes. Probably to some extent, and to some exalted devotees, probably it will happen. But for a general common public, it is going to be very, very, it's like a same chicken and egg story. It is a continuous circle, the vicious circle which is going on. And most importantly, the worst part is that the baby is also, it is its head is down and the legs are up. While it is in the womb also, it's in a very precarious condition. It's a ulta position, which is not natural actually. So this kinds of thing. And why like how the material world and the spiritual world is also juxtaposed. The spiritual world is the real world, which is actually when the tree and the tree shadow is falling on the water, we can understand what is material world and what is spiritual world. The real tree and the branches, what you see, the trunk below and the branches above, is the real tree. Whereas what is reflection in the water is actually the ulta, where the branches are the trunk is above and the branches are below. So like this, it is the situation where the whole material world is also created. So in that condition, this child is always thinking that how I can get rid of this trouble, and how I should what I should do to that extent. It is telling. So as we see in the last shloka, thus endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month after his conception, child is tossed downwards by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worms born of the same filthy abdominal cavity, he can not remain in one place. And just before that, we also understood how the child thus remains just like a bird in a cage without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can bear all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of the peace of mind in that condition? And in this shloka, what we are talking of in the 11th, the living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. So now it is the child is in that prayerful mood. Somehow it was to come out of this. So that means very clearly that the soul is having that knowledge, is having the knowledge. The God consciousness is there, as the soul is remembering, able to remember. But unfortunately, the moment it comes in contact with the material nature, it starts forgetting. So what is this 7 layers of metal ingredients? Is actually we have studied that in the, I think it's in the 5th shloka in the same chapter. Just before this, we have come across this where the 7
Panchabhutas Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
one second. The 4th shloka. Within the 4 months of the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely child, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. And at the end of 6 months, the fetus enclosed by the amnion begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. So these essential ingredients, basically the 7 layers, are the ones which actually are the ones which actually come into existence. So this is the exact description for at the soul, at the body, that these 7 elements which is comprising in our body, which actually forms the body, these 7 are the layers which is mentioned here. Now also, what is that 7 level at a gross level, at a macro level, is also mentioned in the shloka in the Bhagavatam itself, which is actually 6.16.37, where the ingredients of the material world is mentioned. While what we saw in the 5th shloka was about the body, for the individual soul, for the individual body, what is applicable for the cosmos is also mentioned here. So here, Shiti Adibir Esha Kilavrataha Saptabir Dasha Gunottarair Andakoshaha Yatra Patati Anukalpaha Sahanda Koti Kotibis Tad Anantaha. So what is it saying? Every universe is covered by 7 layers: earth, water, fire, air, sky, the total energy, and the false ego, each 10 times greater than the previous one. There are innumerable universes beside this one, and although they are unlimitedly large, they move about like atoms in you. Therefore, you are called unlimited, Ananta. So this is the explanation which is given in the Bhagavatam on the cosmos level. Basically, all the 5 elements, Panchabhuta, and then the total energy and the false ego. And each layer is covered. And after earth is 1 layer, then there is a layer of water, which is 10 times more. Then twice the times is the fire, then the air, then the sky. So like this, the universe is built. And then ultimately, finally, the material universe, material cosmos ends. Then we have the Viraja river, and then the spiritual world will start. So this is what is mentioned here. And then Prabhupada mentions in that purport that the origin of metal creation is Mahavishnu, who lies in the causal ocean. While he sleeps in that ocean, millions of universes are generated as he exhales. And Brahmasmriti also gives that shloka, Yasya Kanishasita Kala Mathavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadantanatha Vishnur Saha Mahan Saha Iha Yasya Kalavishesha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, where we get to know how this whole creation and who is the beginning and how these expansions and the plenary expansions are coming from. So Prabhupada mentions from Krishna or Govinda comes Balrama. From Balrama comes Sankarshna. So just 2 days before, we also celebrated the Balram Jayanti. And from Sankarshna comes Narayana. Narayana, the second Sankarshna. From the second Sankarshna, Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. And then we have the actually Karanodakashaya Vishnu. Actually, it is the Karanodakashaya Vishnu, which is the Mahavishnu. Then you have Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and then the Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. These are the 3. So Kshirodakashaya Vishnu controls every universe. This gives the idea of the meaning of Ananta. So how much this Ananta, it's unlimited potency of the Lord, how he has created. And this was described the coverings of the universe. Saptabir Dasha Gunottarair Andakoshaha. So these are the 7 layers which is covering. So Of course, all this can be understood only if you have the mercy of the Lord and the devotees. It is not. It is actually achintya, inconceivable. These information. So that's why Prabhupada mentions that the Lord also confirmed in that Bhagavad Gita when told to Arjuna. He explained. He showed his universal form, and then he also told him what is the need, Arjuna, for this detailed knowledge. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support the entire universe. The entire material world manifests only 1/4 of the Supreme Lord's energy. Therefore, he is called Ananta. So, explanation of Ananta is given here. That what we are seeing in the material world is just 1/4. 3/4 is actually representing the spiritual world. So much big, gigantic. This universe, material creation is, and in that, just imagine what is the position of a soul, human soul. It's very, very minuscule, actually, very, very tiny. I was also trying to say is that how puny we are, and then with such a small nature, we are trying to lord over the world. We are trying to conquer the world. We are trying to supremely enjoy so much of materialistic propensities. We are having. So how to come out of that is going to be our arduous journey. So, and then Prabhupada gives even the woman, the lady, when she's pregnant and when she's about to deliver, she's telling the same thing. Oh my Lord, I'm not going to ever become pregnant. I don't want to suffer this, time and again. It is so painful. So like that, she promises. While the baby is also in the womb, it is promising. And every person is in one way or the other is promising that when I've come to this material world, I'm not going to come again. I want to come back to you, like that. They're trying, but unfortunately, the moment the baby comes out and it sees the material world, it sees the material nature with so much of varieties, with so much of enjoyment, with so much of sense enjoyment opportunities, it gets swayed and it starts enjoying. The moment the more it starts enjoying, the more it becomes attached to it. The more it gets attached, then the more it want to only want to enjoy only for itself. The ahankara comes, and if it sees somebody else having the same enjoyment, or somebody else better than him, then the envy comes. And envy is the last thing in the kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Envy is that the real snare for a living entity, and that will actually, it will pull that person down. Any person is having envy, he will completely be destroyed. So our bhakti yoga process is that how to come out, how to become non-envious, nirmatsaranam satam. So we have to become a non-envious. Then we'll get the love of Godhead. The prema bhakti can come, and we can go back to the material world with the spiritual world. So Prabhupada is telling this how he keeps promising, and then unfortunately in the hellish condition also, it is thinking that I will once I come out, I get a full life and good health. He forgets everything and commits again and again the sins which was put into horrible life. Actually, in Kerala, near Thrissur, there is one temple, and it is a cave temple actually, and it is called Punarjanani, the temple. So there, I have not seen that. I have heard about it. That it is just a cave. You have to enter the cave, and as you enter, you can go enter, and as you go inside the cave, the entry becomes narrow, and then you have to crawl. Now, after crawling, and you have to take a U-turn, something like a U-turn, and you have to go. And while almost at the end, as you are about to come out, you have to actually lie down. You are completely like you're on, the body is like a sashtang namaskar, and then you are trying to crawl, and then you have to come out. So my God, many people that try, I believe, but very few people can have the guts to complete that journey, because it is so scary, and it is so it's dark, it is scary, you don't know, and your life air also probably you not have much oxygen to breathe. So people will abandon halfway, and the problem is they cannot come back also, because if they're stuck in between, it's going to be so dangerous. So many people don't probably even venture into it. They're so scared. Why it is mentioned there is probably is a concept of the Bhagavatam itself and the womb's condition. So this the previous ancestors have made this kind of a temple where now it is depiction of how the womb is going to be, how material life is so distressful and so not so pleasing. I mean, so much of a struggle it is. So that is being depicted. And I've heard that previously people used to complete that journey, and then they used to come out from one end to another. But probably now it is probably very few people will be able to do it. So that is how temples also again were giving the real picture. Temples are depicting how dangerous this material body condition is. So better that you come to the spiritual platform, take a spiritual life, and then get rid of this. So probably they wanted to educate the people about this situation. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the 12th shloka. So devotee can read the shloka and translation. Hare Krishna.
Shanti
Mataji, you can read the shloka.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Chandruvacha tasyobasannamadum jagadichayatha nanathanurбhuvi salacharanarvindam soham vrajami sharanam shakuto bhayam me yene drushi gadiradarshya sadhonurupa. Thank you.
Shanti Mataji, you can read the translation, Mataji. Purport
Mataji.
Karpagavalli Mataji can read. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation by Prabhupada ki Jai. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Mataji, Prabhuji, Purport Prabhupada ki Jai. The word Kalak-Charanaravindam refers to Chalak-Charanaravindam. The word Chalak-Charanaravindam of the world. For example, Lord Ram walks on the surface of the world, and Lord Krishna also walks just like an ordinary man. The prayer is therefore offered to the person of Godhead who descends to the surface of the and the destruction of the impious. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that when there is an increase in irreligion and discrepancies arise in the religious activities, the Supreme Lord comes to protect the pious and kill the impious. This verse indicates Lord Krishna. Another significant point is that comes Ichaya by its own will, as Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita. Sambayami Atmaya, my will, by my internal potency. He is not forced to come by the laws of material nature. It is stated here, Ichaya. He does not assume any form as the impersonal thing because he comes at his own will, and form in which he doesn't is his eternal form. As the Supreme Lord puts a living entity into the condition of horrible existence, he also deliver him, and therefore one thing. Sorry, Mataji. Deliver. As the Supreme Lord puts the living entity into the condition of horrible existence, he can also deliver him, and therefore one should seek shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna demands, give up everything and surrender unto me. And it is also said in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who approaches him does not come back again to accept a form in material existence. That goes back to Godhead, back home, never to return. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
So in this shloka, actually, the Jantur is telling. Jantur is the human soul. The human soul is what the human soul is telling is being communicated here. That what he is telling, that I will take shelter of the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, who appears in his eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. He appears on his own supreme will whenever it is required, when he has to kill the demonic people and uphold the dharma and also protect the devotees. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear. And now I'm in this horrible situation because of my karmic effect, my impious activity. So like that, the human soul is actually praying. This is the actual prayer that the human soul is doing, and somehow it wants to come out of this precarious condition. So and then Prabhupada mentions that Chalat Charanaravindha refers to the Lord, that while he's the Lord is walking or traveling on this world, or basically that he will come into this material world on his own sweet will whenever it is required, because Lord knows because the prayers of the human soul, many human souls, many jivas are so much that Lord is reciprocating. And then although he comes, Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, although they came as a ordinary person, but actually they because of a certain reason they had to come as an ordinary. They showed themselves as ordinary person, but actually they were completely spiritual in nature. And again, in the Kali Yuga pastimes of the Lord, they had to, or in the material world, they had to take this form. It does not mean that they are also like us. No, they have a completely spiritual body. While we have a material body consisting of the bone, flesh, blood, and all that, the Lord, although they came, appeared in this material world, but they actually had the spiritual body. Only people of small intelligence, they think that Lord is also one amongst like us, and then he also suffered. Especially Mayavadis, they make this mistake of equating themselves with the Lord and actually suffer. So because of their poor fund of knowledge. Yeah, and then also Prabhupada mentions about that. So what he's telling is Paritranaya sadhana vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanartha sambhavami yuge yuge yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvahati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatma. So then also the Ichaya, there also a shloka in there 4.6, which Krishna is mentioning that Ajopisan avyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropisan Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya Sambhavami Atmamayaya. So he comes on his own, Sambhavami Atmamayaya, by my own internal potency and my own sweet will, the timing, or in different form. I come as Narsimha, I come as Vamana, I can come as Kurma. All this I come and then do perform this Leela. So that he also gives the variegatedness, so that the Jiva also is actually attracted to those forms. And also Lord is showing how much potent he is. Who can imagine? Hiranyakashipu had never imagined. He put so many conditions that nobody, either a demigod, nor a god, nor a human, nobody should kill me. And then he had put so much of conditions. Without weapons, he should be there. With weapons or without weapons, so many conditions he put. But Lord defeated all that, and he came in a half human and half animal form, and thus he killed Hiranyakashipu. So it's just to show how much of a mystic nature is Yogeshwara, the master of all mystics. Krishna is, and then he wanted to teach a lesson to those miscreants or those who are non-believers. And then also he showed the Vishwarupa form in the before the Kurukshetra war, which is totally inconceivable. Nobody can understand that. Nobody can even they get to see that, first of all, and they can, even they see also, they cannot understand. So all these supernatural things, Lord did it just to show his supremacy, that here I am. So if you have to surrender unto me, give up everything and surrender unto me. Only then you can, come. And then in the 4th chapter also further, Lord says this, Janma karma chame devyam evam yoveti tapsataha tyaktva deha punarjama naiti mameti soarjuna. So that Janma karma, his birth, his appearance, disappearance, his leela, all are transcendental, beyond our comprehension. And then one who understands it in totality, in Tattva, he will not take birth again in this material world. He will actually come back to me. So these are the direct instructions the Lord is giving, just to show his opulences and to show his supremacy. So that by, at least by knowing this and by trying to understand this, the living entity might take shelter, might come and surrender, might take the good decision. So that is what Prabhupada always wanted, that that every entity should, whoever comes in touch with the Krishna conscious devotee or a Krishna conscious person or a Krishna conscious active act, they should actually, we should be able to transform their heart, and they should actually accept Krishna consciousness, and that way they'll be saved. So a soul can be saved, and then we can, that way, that's why he plays a lot of prominence for preaching to the common people. And now we are seeing so much of success all over the world, that Prabhupada desire is getting fulfilled. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the next shloka, the 13th shloka.
Hare Krishna. Anita Mataji, you can read the shloka and translation. Purport can be read by Sunila Mataji. Shri Radha Devi Dasi Mataji, you can read the purport, Mataji. Hare.
हरे कृष्ण। यस्तु अत्र बद्ध एव कर्मभिरावृतात्मा भूतेन्द्रियाशयमयम् अवलम्ब्य मायाम् आस्ते विशुद्धम् अविकारम् अखण्डबोधम् आतप्यमान हृदये अवसितं नमामि। Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As stated in the previous verse, the Jiva soul says, I take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, constitutionally, the Jiva soul is the subordinate servitor of the Supreme Soul. The personality of Godhead, both the Supreme Soul and the Jiva soul, are sitting in the same body, as confirmed in Upanishads. They are sitting as friends, but one is suffering and the other one is aloof from suffering. In this verse, it is said that Vishuddham Avikaram Akhanda Bodham. The super soul is always sitting apart from all the contamination. The living entity is contaminated and suffering because he has a material body. But that doesn't mean that because the Lord is always also within him, he also has a material body. He is Avikaram, changeless. He is always the same supreme. But unfortunately, the Mayavadi philosophers, because of their impure hearts, cannot understand that the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul, is different from the individual soul. It is said here, Atapyamana Hridaye Avasitam. He is in the heart of every living entity, but he can be realized only by a soul who is repentant. This individual soul becomes repentant that he forgot his constitutional position, wanted to become one with the Supreme Soul, and tried his best to lord it over the material nature. He has been baffled, and therefore he is repentant. At that time, Super Soul, or the relationship between the Super Soul and the individual soul, is realized. As it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, after many, many births, the knowledge comes to the conditioned soul that Vasudeva is great. He is master and he is Lord. The individual soul is servant and therefore he surrenders unto him. At that time, he becomes a Mahatma, great soul. Therefore, a fortunate living being who comes to this understanding, even within the womb of his mother, as his liberation assured. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so very wonderfully, again, it is being described here, what the soul's condition and its understanding. So it is very clearly mentioning that I'm lying here by the arrangement of the Maya, and I want to, I'm paying my obeisances, respectful obeisances unto you, who is unlimited and who is changeless. So here the soul is actually in the repentant mood. So what is important is that repentance, the prayashchita. So only, even in our Vaishnava philosophy also, Rupa Goswami had stressed on this prayashchita. This once we do this prayashchita or atonement of our past sins, of our past deeds, of anything, every person is bound to make mistake. But what is most important, or the Vaishnava quality, is that we should be able to repent and we should be able to do the prayashchita, and again take a vow that you will not repeat this mistake again. So once that is done, then there is the process of healing. So that's very important, that devotees, especially Vaishnava philosophy, makes this arrangement. It gives a chance to the living entity that yes, okay, you did the mistake, but at least in future, please take care of it. And if that is done, then his journey is successful. And that is where the position of Guru comes. I mean, in fact, Guru, when you take the initiation, he actually is taking away all our sins. When the Diksha is being given, Guru takes away all our sins. And the Guru promises by the agency of Krishna that, okay, your past is past, but I am going to safeguard your future. I'm going to give you spiritual birth. The Diksha means it's a spiritual birth. That's why it's called Dvija. We become Dvija. And of course, as a Brahminical initiation, if you get, in ISKCON, we have Harinam initiation, which is initially where the Harinam is given, the holy name is given, and a new name is given to the devotee, and he's taking a vow on the fire sacrifice. But the real initiation is actually the Brahminical, where the Gayatri mantra is given. So that is the Brahminical initiation, which is, as we advance in our Harinam initiation, then we can be eligible to take the Brahminical. But it has to be very careful that the devotee is not breaking the basic rules, the basic fundamentals. If he breaks, then he will have to incur a lot of reverses in his life. So they have to be very careful even to take for the Brahminical. While every good is promised, is possible by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, but if commits mistakes and apradhas, then that also the soul has to take. So this is the law of nature, law of karma. So here, Prabhupada tells how the Lord is not having a material body. He is always Sachidananda Vigraha. Vishuddham, Vishuddha means completely pure. Avikaram, not changing. Akhanda Bodham, and he's all complete. Everything is fully contained in him. So this is the nature. And as Krishna gives in the 9th chapter also, he's mentioning about this, people making mistakes. Avajananti mam muda, manushim tanam ashritam, parambhavam ajananto, mama bhuta maheshwaram. Actually, avajananti, people, they disregard, they disrespect me. Muda, the people are muda. People, those who are mudas or foolish people, they think manushim tanam ashritam. I have taken a human form and I have come as Rama, I have come as Krishna. But actually, they don't know my form is Param Bhavam Ajananto, is the Param, transcendental, divine, Ajananta, without knowing, and also my Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram, and my all my living entities are all my beings, my part and parcels. So I am that Maheshwara. So like that, the same thing as the shloka is in this Bhagavad Gita is there, Avajanti Mamuda. The same is also being repeated here, that what is his form, the Lord's form, and it is such a spiritual form. It cannot be compared to the material. Although by appearance it looks that Lord is also having two form, two hands, two legs, the face and all this, but actually the Lord has given his form to the human. Lord is already having that 400 form, or actually he's having 400, but we have 200. Generally the hands and leg. That is the same feature he has given out of his mercy, so that the living entity can perform his acts in a nice way. But unfortunately, the people make mistake, and then they think they equate himself with the Supreme Lord, and they actually forget the supreme, the spiritual nature of the Lord. And that is the reason why Lord is also given that shloka in the Bhagavad Gita also, that please don't make that mistake. And also the further is when it comes to the atonement, which we discussed earlier. And Bhagavad Gita also confirms, Prabhupada mentions that, Bhagavad Gita says that, he says in the 7th chapter that, Bhavanam Janmanam Ante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Atma. So that soul is the one who actually who understands that after many lives, that he comes to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and then he finally surrenders. So it's a big journey. So Mahatma Sudurlabha. So that soul is very rare also at the same time. So therefore, Prabhupada ends with the purport, concludes, therefore, a fortunate living being who comes to this understanding that Vasudeva is the Supreme, even within the womb of his mother, has his liberation assured. So he contemplates that in the womb. At the same time, after he comes out of the womb also, he actually practices it, and then he actually fulfills whatever was his desire. So then he can find success. Otherwise, he also again go repeated births and repeated deaths. So we'll go to the 14th shloka.
Hare Krishna. Subbarao Prabhuji, you can read the shloka, Prabhuji. Srimati Shyama Priya Devi Dasi Mataji can read the translation. Sharmila Mataji, you can read the purport. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah. Panchabhuta rachite rahita sharire chinno yayendriya gunat chidatmakoham tena vikuntha mahimanam mrishim tamenam vande param prakriti purushayoh umam sam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna Prabhuji, pranams. Translation by His Divine Grace, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made up of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are being misused, although I am essentially spiritual, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and the living entities, because he is devoid of such a material body, and because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities. I offer my obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The difference between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that living entity is prone to be subjected to material nature, whereas the Supreme Godhead is always transcendental to material nature as well as to the living entities. When the living entity is put into material nature, then his senses and qualities are polluted or designated. There is no possibility of Supreme Lord to become embodied by material qualities or material senses, for he is above the influence of material nature and cannot possibly be put in the darkness of ignorance like the living entities. Because of his full knowledge, he is never subjected to the influence of material nature. Material nature is always under his control, and it is therefore not possible that material nature can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the identity of the living entity is very minute, he is prone to be subjected to material nature. But when he is freed from this material body, which is false, he attains the same spiritual nature as the Supreme Lord. At that time, there is no qualitative difference between him and the Supreme Lord. But because he is not so quantitatively powerful as to never be put under the influence of material nature, he is quantitatively different from the Lord. The entire process of devotional service is to purify oneself of this contamination of material nature and put oneself on the spiritual platform, where he is qualitatively one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is said that the living entity is always free. Asango hi ayam purushaha. The living entity is liberated. His material contamination is temporary, and his actual position is that he is liberated. This liberation is achieved by Krishna consciousness, which begins from the point of surrender. Therefore, it is said here, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here the soul is further continuing his prayers, and it is also very clear that here it is I'm separated from the Supreme Lord, and I'm in this material body. Because I'm in this material body, I'm bound by these senses. The senses are being misused. Although I'm essentially spiritual, the Atma is spiritual. Whereas since it is the Atma has come into contact with the material nature, it is acting. It is actually forgetting its original nature, and it is getting misdirected. So this is what happens, and that's the reason for our suffering. So it's very clearly mentioned in this shloka. And whereas the Lord is completely spiritual, actually we are also such. Lord is Satchidananda Vigraha. We are also Satchidananda Vigraha. We are also, but only the difference here is that Lord is an ocean and we are a minute, the drop in the ocean, and he is the ocean. So the Satchitananda, the absolute truth, the Chit is the intelligence, and the Ananda is the happiness. We are also having the same feature. Our soul is also experiencing the same thing, but it is limited, limited nature. Whereas the Lord is having unlimited, anandas. So he's that is the difference. So this is the theory Achinta Bheda Abheda Tattva given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whereas the previous acharyas, starting from Shankaracharya gave Advaita philosophy, where he said, Aham Brahmasmi, where I'm the soul, and there was a he equated. There is no difference between the soul and the supreme soul. So everything was getting merged, or everything is one. So the oneness concept was established by Advaita. But later on, Ramanujacharya came. He gave Vishishta Advaita, where he said, no, Lord is separate and the Jiva is separate. They have a special relationship. And that relationship is to serve the Lord. And so this was the Vishishta Advaita. And then Madhvacharya came and he gave Dvaita. He said, even that special nature also has a quality, and it is again separated. Between jivas there is separation, between jada there is separation, and the Lord and the jiva are totally separated entities. They cannot be one. So like that, he gave the Dvaita philosophy, which is the Dvaita means two, or the two nature. And then finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to come and he had to give the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, where that we are same, the soul having the same qualities, at the same time it is different. It is acting on its own. So like that, he gave this philosophy. Achintya Bheda is oneness, and the Abheda, which is the separated nature of the soul. Krishna. So Prabhupada is mentioning that when living entity is put into this material nature, his qualities and senses are polluted, and because of that reason, he gets covered, and then he'll probably go into the three modes of nature. He could act in the mode of ignorance, he could act in the mode of passion, he could act in the mode of goodness. But actually, even these three are also not going to help. We have to be beyond this. That is the Vishuddha Sattva, Vasudeva Sattva. That is Krishna consciousness. Only if he's in the Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness, he can actually come out of that. Yeah, the entire process of devotional service is to purify oneself of this contamination. So this is the purificatory process which we are all practicing as sadhakas, or the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, where we are doing it by practice, by force, or by the under the instructions of the guru and the scriptures. We are following ourselves that we want to become qualitatively one and serve the Lord. So living entity is liberated. His mental contamination is temporary, and his actual position is that he is liberated. That's why the jiva is called as the tatastha shakti, the jivatma. Tatastha means it's a marginal power, or the marginal energy it has. This marginal energy can either move towards the material nature, or it can tilt to the spiritual nature. So that is the quality, or that is the facility that this jiva has. If it is practices Krishna consciousness, it can actually get spiritualized. The body, material body, can be spiritualized. But if it doesn't listen to the spiritual verdict, and it doesn't act on the spiritual platform, it will suffer in the material world. Hare Krishna. So yeah, with this, just concluding today's session. If any devotees have any clarifications, doubts, or realizations, they can communicate.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. There is one small announcement, not announcement, rather we want to congratulate Sunila Sri Radha Devidasi Mataji and Srimati Sham Priya Devidasi Mataji. They
Okay.
got initiation in Mangalore temple 3 days before,
Oh.
if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
Oh,
Mataji.
very well. Very nice.
So they both got initiated, Prabhu, and we will chant one time for both the Matajis and for all the people, devotees who are attending the Shrimad Bhagavatam session, that they will also get initiated or get into the shelter of Guru and progress in a spiritual path. So we'll chant one time. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Hare
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 Hare,
Hare Rama
Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hari Bol. Many congratulations, both the Matajis. Hari Hari.
Yes,
Thank you so
that's a great achievement, and now their journey starts.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
We need your blessings, Mataji and Prabhuji. We need your blessings.
Hari
This is the
Bol.
first milestone, Prabhuji. This is the first milestone of spiritual
Yeah,
journey,
yeah.
and we need
Yes.
your blessings, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari.
To transfer the.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, all devotees in Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Blessings.
Hari Bol. Yeah. So now,
So there are,
yeah, Prabhu.
yeah,
Yeah, Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
yeah. If there are any realizations or any questions,
Yeah.
we can take.
Yeah. So questions. I think Shanti Mataji, do you have a question or you have raised hand for reading? Okay, Padma Shri Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranams. Thank you for the nice. I have a clarification. I want to ask you a question actually. You mentioned that the first level is Harinam Diksha and then comes the Brahmin Diksha. What I remember is what Prabhupada has said is Harinam Diksha itself is very powerful and one can go back to Godhead with Harinam Diksha. And by preaching, one can preach and go back by taking Harinam Diksha. And Brahmin Diksha is for mainly serving the deities. Both are equally potent. Just because Brahmin Diksha is not compulsory, necessary, but Harinam Diksha itself is more than sufficient. So, is that's what I remember, Prabhuji? Can you throw some light? Am I correct?
Yeah. Of course. See, Harinam Diksha is as potent. Basically, you're under the shelter of the Guru, and you're doing, the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. We are all in the Vaidhi Sadhana platform. The advantage of Brahminical Diksha is that you are entitled to do deity worship in the temple, where a Prana Pratisthapana deities are there. So you're actually interacting directly with the Lord. So it's very, very advanced level, and it's to be done on a very, very serious note. I mean, the consciousness has to be that high. At the same time, you can also do Saligrama worship, and you can do such at the altar, the deity seva service, because it is more intimate. The whole process is intimate. And in the Brahminical Diksha, because you are so much, you're maybe a step higher in able to perform your services, and your quality is on the higher side, it is like a fast track for devotee. You don't have to. So if suppose you have to go to airport, and then you have people waiting in the queue, but if you have your card or some membership or some eligibility, or you are having a first class ticket or something, VIP, somebody, he just gets a fast track. He just goes because he's. But what is important is that whether you're able to maintain that, the quality, and that the high class, service, all these things. At the same time, you have to be as humble as possible. So it's a very, very tough position, but this facility is there. And that if you take as just like having a graduation and then taking a post graduation and then doing higher studies. So it is similar to that nature. Because the person who is on the post graduation gets a better chance of success, and so all said and done, even person who are on the Harinam Diksha, also will go back, can go back. There's no harm in that. So what matters is the purity of your consciousness. What matters is your sadhana. What is the depth of your sadhana, the intensity of the sadhana. So if that intensity is there, even a Harinam Diksha also can go, because he's under the shelter of the Guru. Maybe he's not done the deity worship, or he's not so intimate in serving the Lord, but he's serving the devotees. He might be doing extremely wonderful preaching of jobs. He might be very good cook. He might be very good making good garlands. So many things. There is so much of sevas are available. So what you are doing, to the best of your ability, and ultimately it is samsiddhim haritoshnam. The Lord has to accept your seva. The Guru and the devotees has to accept. If you are maybe Brahminical, but if your quality is not so good, and if your mood is not so good, and if you are serving the, it does not mean that you will go back. Although you're in the fast track, maybe some impediment will come. So this is the whole. So as Lord is a bhavagrahi Janardhan, he is not interested in what is the quantum you are putting, or what is the quantum you are giving, what is the mood you are giving, how much you are surrendering yourself, the bhava in which you are doing. So that is most important. So that's why we see most of our Krishna devotees in the history, in the past times, they're either poor, or completely not having so much of opulence, or completely they are materially impoverished. That is the qualification that should be there. And he's called as Akinchana Gochara. Lord, as Kunti Mataji describes, Akinchana, one who is completely materially impoverished, he can get the love of Godhead. So that is what we should develop. So Diksha is definitely a step, and then Harinam is as good as that. In fact, in Prabhupada's lifetime itself, I think I would have told these pastimes also, two pastimes of one Bengali Prabhu, one Bengali family in Calcutta, or in Delhi. He was there, and he was in association with the Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada had just given him a chanting bead and told him just to do chanting, that's all, because he had helped Prabhupada in such a great way. And then after a few years, he did not give him a name, Diksha, nothing was there. But the Prabhu took it very seriously, and he was chanting. And then after a few years, he passed away. And while he was passed away, that Prabhu was holding his chanting bag on his deathbed, and he was chanting. So you can imagine that how much of Prabhupada mercy is there. And later on, when Prabhupada came to know about them and he visited the home, the family people, the wife and all the children, they were telling that it is only because of your mercy he was chanting. And in the last minute also, he was taking out your name. So just imagine that mercy. So he was not initiated actually. He didn't go through a formal process. And similarly, we have another devotee in Mumbai, when the Mumbai temple construction was going on. So this Prabhu also, this gentleman also had the same, he had helped Prabhupada, he gave his own building when the deities were being destroyed or were being attacked. And he was a contractor. Then Prabhupada gave him the mercy, and he also told him to just do the chanting. And then, of course, Prabhupada's mercy is there, and his affection to them is there. And then in his case also, he had the same situation. Then he had chanting till his last breath. So that's it. I mean, Lord has his own way. It's only that how sincere you are and how committed you are, that matters a lot. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Haribol.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So we'll end the session. Yeah, Prabhu, thank you. Suma
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
okay. Yeah, please.
Sorry,
Mataji.
Mataji, sorry for the interruption. I'm sorry. Hare
No,
Krishna,
no
Prabhuji.
problem.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing this. Because
Yes, ma'am.
many people in this Kali Yuga are in a state like where they are not able to take Diksha also. So for them, it is very inspiring and comforting words, Prabhuji. Because Hare Krishna.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Anyway, the two examples what I gave, because a pure devotee was there, Prabhupada was there, and Prabhupada mercy was there. But we cannot take it lightly, right? No, I'll just do chanting. I will, no, I don't have to take Diksha. No, we should not be complacent. We should actually strive for that, because we have a system. The Guru Shishya Parampara is there. Diksha program is there. So all of the devotees should attempt to this. and then they should take it in the right spirit. That's it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Okay.
We'll end the session here, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Bol.
Vancha
Vancha
kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Sindhubhyascha
sindhubhyascha
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय
की जय.
Prabhuji. Hare
Maharaj ki jai. Hare Bol.
हरे कृष्ण
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Shall I
Hare
end the
Krishna,
session?
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Bol.
Krishna,
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Prabhu.